Good morning. Hello, hello. I'm so excited for you guys. I'm excited to do this with you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking this class. I'm so excited. So this is my first one. You guys get to be my guinea pigs, and I appreciate you for doing that. I would love your guys's comments. I would love feedback. So please message me with tips, like if the volume's not good, or if whatever. I would love to hear your feedback. It would really help me so I could do better each time. I appreciate constructive criticism very much. So today we're gonna start this class, and this is for everyone. Okay, so some of you, this might not, you might already know a lot of the things I'm going to talk about, but maybe not. I don't know. And I hope that it's a blessing to you. It encourages you. That's really my heart, is that homeschooling is difficult. It is, okay? So like, if you thought this was going to be easy, we'll put your mind at ease right now. It's not. It's not easy. But I think it's totally worth it. And I just want to give you some tools and resources that have helped us along the way and have made life a little easier. Now, is every day of my life homeschooling easy? Now? No. No. There's still me with a difficult personality and 6 kids with difficult personalities, because we're all growing, right? We're all human and we have our days. But I love the fruit of it, and I love our family connection from it, and I love our freedom, our lifestyle freedom. We're a full-time traveling family. Currently, we're in Utah. We're staying with some family at the moment. So we live in a camper, actually, but right now I'm at my uncle-in-law's house. And so we get to use his lovely room here for a backdrop, and I really appreciate that. So we wanted to get that done while we were here and had consistent internet and a quiet space, which is hard to find as you travel the US in a camper. But, homeschooling has allowed us to have this lifestyle, and our kids are learning with us, and we're going and exploring everything, and we're seeing our family who we don't get to see very often. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm really, really thankful for this opportunity and for the freedom that we have in the US to homeschool. And I know different states have different requirements, and some states are a little more difficult to homeschool in, but overall we're extremely blessed. And that's another reason why I'm doing this video actually now, is this is an idea I've been having for a while, and friends have been encouraging me to do a class like this, and I just didn't have the full vision, right? But I've been invited to go to Russia to the Global Homeschool, I always get this wrong, the Global Home Education Summit, and be a part of some roundtable discussions. We're going to go encourage Russian families, but there's going to be people from all over the world there, different homeschoolers that are in leadership in their countries. So we're going to be talking just about the practical stuff, but also we're going to be helping with legislation. So we're going to be talking to government officials, we're going to be talking to reporters, researchers, and just really helping spread the idea that homeschooling is a great option and kids can turn out wonderfully educated from it. So that's one of the reasons we're doing this class now, is because we want to use this class as kind of a fundraiser for that. So it's a free will offering to come do this class with me. I mean, pay what you think. In the future, I'm looking at charging about $50 to $100, I think, for this class. That's what is kind of, when I look at other options, it's about the reasonable price. But today, for my first time, you guys as my guinea pigs, if you want to pay $10, if you want to pay $20, if you want to pay $100, I'll let you. But that'll be with a GoFundMe account that I've started for this. I believe, yeah, so you'll see, I'm needing, I think, about $2,500, I think, with the visa and the airfare and stuff. Some of my costs are covered, but there's still some big costs to that. So I thought I'm going to share with you, and you can share with me, and this is going to be awesome. I'm so excited. So please put questions in the comments, put questions in the Facebook group itself. Put your questions there, and we'll make sure that we get those either at the end of the video, or we'll get them on a later video. So, okay, let's start. Now we're going to get to you've decided to homeschool. And we're going to talk about, you're thinking about homeschooling. Let's start there. We'll go back even a little further. You're thinking about homeschooling, but you don't know. You don't know if this is the right fit for you or not. You're worried that you're not going to be patient enough. You're worried that you don't have the education. You're worried that your kids aren't going to listen to you. Those are a lot of the same concerns I hear often. So if that's you, let's talk about those for a minute. If you say you're not patient enough, if that's your issue, I would say that most people say that. Most people say that they aren't patient enough. I am definitely in that category, but I really believe that homeschooling has taught me probably more than it's teaching my kids. It's really good. And one of our goals for our kids with homeschooling is really their character. And with their character comes my character. And I need to work on it, So patience, it's one of those things that, it's hard, but you have to work on it. We have to be better. And I think that every time we have another child, I'm like, okay, I either grow or die, right? Like having two kids was manageable. I had 2 hands. I could figure this out. I had the third. I was like, oh my gosh, and it's like, okay, you have to get some more systems in line. You have to figure things out and get things a little more organized so you don't crumple and just cry every day, right? So the same thing is true with homeschooling. You're going to gradually learn skills. And that's what we're doing with this, is really to work on getting you the skills so that you don't lose your mind, right? So that you press on the hard days. Okay, so if you think the education thing, studies have proven, so we're talking about common concerns people have when they start homeschooling or if they're thinking about homeschooling. People say, well, I'm not that educated, or I don't know a lot. I'm not gonna be able to teach algebra, or I'm not gonna be able to do this, okay, or that, or whatever the concerns are that you have, right? First off, there's so much curriculum out there now. There's so many options, just like Khan Academy, okay, khanacademy.com. It's a KHAN. Your kids could learn most everything just off of that website, and it's free. There are websites that'll teach your kids everything, and there's curriculum that you can buy to teach them math. And if you don't know, I bet you could find a tutor in your area. Like, there are resources, and I really feel strongly, like, I'm a Christian, and that's going to come through in these talks. If you're not a believer, like, no condemnation, that's your choice, and just brush off my comments, right, that may not pertain to you. But I am going to come from that point of view. So just FYI. But I really believe that as Christians, if we're called to do something, if we really feel that stirring in our soul and like, this really looks like it might be for us, God's going to provide for us. He's going to provide the resources, just financially, and just the practical resources. I cannot tell you how many times we've had mentors in our life that it's just amazing. Like, we moved to a tiny town, like 200 people in this town, right? My 3 oldest kids, the exact things they were looking for in mentors, God gave them to them. Free classes, free, learn how to play the ukulele, free, learn how to be a trapper, free, Tennille, I love you. Okay, sorry. Free everything, you guys. God will provide. So don't stress out that you can't teach algebra. The internet can teach algebra, or maybe the neighbor kid can teach algebra and you can pay him $10, $20 a week to come tutor your kid. Like, win-win. Especially, we did this with piano lessons for my son, and it was so good. We found a teenage boy that was awesome. Okay, like, highly pick. That's one of the things I love. As a homeschooler, I love having teachers, but I want to choose. I want to hand pick who those teachers and mentors are for my kids. So we did that with my son's piano teacher, and he got to have guide time, right? Like, he was in a house full of girls all the time, and he needed some dudes in his life. So I found this guy to give him piano lessons. It was amazing, Okay, so we talked about the patience thing. We talked about the education thing. What do other people say? Their kid's not going to get a well enough rounded education. That's another thing I saw in a lot of people's comments. That's a hard one. I don't know. Like, no one is going to know everything, right? None of us came out of school knowing everything. Sorry, I need a sip. So, like, even if it was taught to us, even if it was we were exposed to it one time, because of our different interests and our different personalities, not everything's going to stick, right? That's just life. One of our goals with our kids really early on was just to really expose them to everything. And that's still kind of, why we're on this journey, traveling all over and meeting everyone. And we love that. I want my kids to have this really, really wide worldview and to just understand people from different points of view. And that's just really important to me. So from a very early age, we read books from all over, and now we're reading a science book that we don't agree with. Okay. As Christians and in, our beliefs, we're reading this book, but we're reading it all together. And it's like a 7th grade science book, right? So I'm reading that, and my kids from, high school age down to early elementary, we're all reading it together. And as we're reading it, we're discussing, why do you think they think that? Why don't we think that? How could we back up our argument? How would they back up their argument? And, that discussion, I really feel it's one of the amazing things about homeschooling and a great way for our kids to be able to do this. Expose them to everything and then talk about it, really, because when we're sending our kids off to school, they're hearing whatever the teacher believes. And no matter how you believe, I'm pretty sure that every teacher your child would have in 12 years is not going to agree with you, or they're going to teach things that are just crazy. I remember arguing with a teacher because I'm a debater. That's my personality. I was arguing with this teacher about what an aquifer was, right? He was wrong. Okay. Anyhow, and that was in 5th grade, but, we're not going to agree with them. And the blessing of it is, as homeschoolers, we can talk about why we don't. And if we can teach our kids not only what we believe, but why we believe it, that's powerful, you guys. And especially as Christians, if your kids, if they're in school and they're being taught creation or evolution all the way through, and you're telling them, listen to your teacher, respect your teacher, do what they say, but you don't agree with that, it's going to be really hard for you to talk to, to rewind all that programming, right? It is. So whatever your worldview is, when you teach your children from home, you have the opportunity to really teach it. But I would also encourage you to teach them how to defend it, how to back it up. Okay, I think I got way off on a tangent there. But okay, so talking about just some reasons why people feel like maybe they can't homeschool. And so now, in one of our handouts I'm going to send to you guys, I want you guys to write down 10 reasons, 10 qualities or abilities or 10 goals you have for your kids when they graduate. When you think of sending your child out into the world, what do you want them to have? Okay, I don't really want to taint your list with my list. So I'm just going to tell you a couple. But some things that I always was passionate about was I wanted my kids to be able to have survival skills. I want them to live off the land, be able to hunt animals and collect wild berries. That's just important to me and my family. That's our family, right? But at the same time, I want them to be able to use the internet and do internet marketing and be able to know the technology that's driving the future. I really want them to be really well versed in both of those worlds. That is important to me. So that's something I would write on that list. Other things that just talk about attitudes and things like that, and maybe put some skills in there. But taint it. Okay. Well, Tennille, I'm not going to. You know what? I want you guys to really think about your list and what's important to you, because I can tell you what's important to me, and I will. But and maybe even just right now, just write down some things. If you could just write a little list right now, and write down 4 or 5 things, or even in your head, think about, and if somebody says I want my child to be successful. Okay, you really need to unpack that. What does that mean to you? What does a successful person mean to you? And it was funny, a friend of mine was talking about some other people that we know. And she said, oh, their kids are so successful. And I thought, I would never think that about them. And that sounds rude. I know it sounds rude. But to me, I don't know, they were married and they had a job. And so that in this other person's mind, their kids were married and, they weren't they weren't in trouble with the law or something, and they had jobs that was successful to them. That's not my idea of successful, right? Because I am passionately freedom driven, and I want, I want us to own our own businesses. I want us to just be in charge of our own schedules. I want us to be doing what we're passionate about, right? I just feel like life is way too short to do stuff just to earn $1. Like, it's too short. I don't like, so that was just my personal feelings on that. But you need to figure out for your family, what does success mean? And I'm telling you, it is not an accident what kids were put in your family. Okay, like I have friends, I have some fancy friends. I'm going to name drop for a second. If you know the Blacks, so Andrea and Chuck Black. Chuck Black is a famous homeschooler dad, and he's an author. And they're the coolest people, right? They go and they speak at homeschool conventions, and they're from my town where we just moved from. Awesome people. And their heart is really to have college graduates. They really feel like Christians need to be in the marketplace, and we need to be, leaders in our communities. These are not things I'm saying I disagree with at all, but just their passion was to have highly educated children. And the couple, Chuck and Andrea, are both highly educated. And so their children, went on to be collegiate trained musicians, pharmacists, Air Force pilot. These are the things that their kids did. And it's no accident that those kids were put with them, and that's who they're raising, right? That's the role models that they've been given their whole life. Other people, they're like crazy artistic and doing a million art projects. And like one of my friends is, cute art projects going on all the time, and their kids are in that, and they're just and they're raising babies and eating healthy, and that's what these kids, which is mostly all girls. She's raising a lot of moms in this home, and they're being nurtured in this beautiful environment, and it's no accident. They're being educated. Like, I'm not saying, and I honestly don't know what her end goal is, so I cannot tell you what her opinion is on this. But I'm just saying, like, farmers kind of raise farmers, and teachers raise teachers, and it goes on and it goes on, and there's no accident. So don't stress out. I don't know where I was going with that. That we all have different goals for our family, right? We all have different things that are super important to us that our children learn. And that's not an accident, right? So if you want your kids to understand politics, if politics is your heart and you're watching the news and you're discussing it, like, you're raising little politicians, and that's awesome. We need little politicians, right? So make your list. Talk it over with your husband. What's his list? Like, what is super important? Because then when you have those goals, when you know what is super important to both of you, it's easier to help show your husband also how you want to get there. It's easier to ask the right questions of people, knowing what kind of curriculum maybe you need. It's just going to be easier for you planning that day-to-day thing. So write your list while I take a drink. Okay, so hopefully, and you can just write some notes now, but we'll talk more about those. Okay, so sorry, I'm making sure we get this all in order. I tend to be a jump arounder. So let's say, you're discussing, should we homeschool or not? We're going to address talking to hubby and stuff in a next video. So I don't want to get too far into that. But talking about why you want to homeschool. And okay, so this is the things you have to do when you start homeschooling. First off, join hslda.org. So it's the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and it's like $100 a month, but they will protect you. They're lawyers. Okay, they'll protect you and anybody else in that organization for free if there's ever an issue with homeschooling, with CPS coming to your door. They train you, like if CPS comes to your door, you don't let them in the house. Like they really train you and they back you up. It's amazing. Like the freedoms that we have in America are because of HSLDA. Really, we owe them a lot. North Dakota, it was illegal to homeschool there up into the 90s, I believe, maybe early 90s, and they fought with them. And families went to jail. Like it's really interesting talking to these people who are the pioneers really in our communities, and we owe them a lot. So join that. It gives you such a sense of freedom. Like you don't have to worry if your kids are playing outside and the neighbor calls you in because Susie was outside during school hours. Well, Susie can do school whenever she wants. Okay, we homeschool. We have that freedom. Sorry. neighbor, nosy neighbor, but it just gives you that sense of freedom. You don't have to feel worried. Don't live in fear. We do not want to live in fear. Join HSLDA. Then you want to look up your state rules. HSLDA has that, and you can look up for your state's requirements. All states are different. It can be a little confusing, but look them up, know them, and then follow them. That way, if there ever is an issue, HSLDA can support you and win, and there will be no issues. A lot of times, if you don't follow them, you just it seems like a lot of times you can just say sorry and then start following them. That's what I've seen in other cases, but I don't suggest it. Okay, I don't suggest it. Okay, so state rules. Now, they're really different. I'm going to talk to you just about North Dakota. That's where we homeschooled the most in. We technically, our address is in Montana now, but we, like I said before, we're full-time traveling family. So we still have to follow Montana laws because that's our state of residence or something. But, okay, so in North Dakota, you have to do 4 hours of school a day. I don't know, 180 days a year. I don't know. Doylene's on here. She might be able to tell me. I'm not a good rule follower, but I'm going to encourage you to be one. It's very important. But okay, so let's say you have your 4 hours, and let's say it's 180 days. That's what comes to mind, but I should have double checked it. Well, how we did that is we set up our schedule, and now my husband had not a 9 to 5. He had a 6 to 9 job at that time, and so we had our whole day to figure it out, right? So how we organized our life, and this is one thing I'm going to talk about more, but I find that it's really helpful, especially for boys, if you have a schedule, and if you tell them exactly what's going to be expected of them. I tend to be oh, well, let's play this game now. Ooh, let's do this now. And I'm doing that, and oh my gosh, my ADD son, about had panic attacks every day when I would do that because he'd think, oh, I just have to cross off these things and I'm done. Whoo, yeah. And I'm like, oh no, let's do, and it was learn from my mistakes. Okay. So what we did is I said from 9 to 12, that's only 3 hours, but we did from 9 to 12 every day was our time together. And that just meant for me, put away my work stuff, put away the things I wanted to do. Even chores, sometimes, although a friend of mine did say, do your read alouds while folding laundry. That has been a lifesaver for me. I love that. But I took those 3 hours, and it was our school time. Now, I don't really love that term, but I've never come up with a better one. I don't know. Some people like to say just your learning time, I don't know. Because for me, my heart is just to have this life, a life of learning, for my family. And so I didn't want to use the word school, but it's just one of those things that's been programmed in me. And so we always have school time from 9 to 12. Now, and I knew that somewhere later in the day, we would do more. A lot of people keep track of this different ways. There's a lot of variations. I like a planner from Walmart, just a cheap planner, and I would just write in there different kids. So some I would have them write down what, I'm thinking if I have an example handy, but I don't, sorry. I would have them write down what we wanted to do for that week and then cross it off as we did it. Or some kids, I would have printed out just a weekly schedule and, talk about the books we read and the games we played. So really, when you think about those 4 hours, and that usually isn't until they're 7. So when they're 5, a lot of times you don't have to do anything for them in most states that, as I've researched, 5 and 6, you don't have to. And sometimes even if you do, it's a smaller amount of hours. But when you think about those hours that you're spending in school, sometimes 4 hours a day, that's a lot. Okay, a lot of things can be counted as school. Think back to your school career and think about some things you did in class. We watched science movies. We played kickball. We did science experiments. There was some cooking classes. I say Legos. Legos is probably one of the best activities your kids can do. Now, if you can really handle the noise, sometimes I struggle with this, but if you can handle them playing Legos while you read to them, oh man, you can go through a ton of books and your kids, our thing for read alouds was just that you can't be reading or writing. We would try and do everything else. So lots of drawing goes on during that, lots of different blocks. But those 3 hours, I mean, if you're painting, if you're, reading books together, a lot of the people on here have younger kids. So we're talking about that. As your kids get older, middle school, that can fill up pretty fast, especially when you have a kid that's struggling and you're having to spend a lot of one-on-one time with them, right? And you're like, math took 2 hours today. Awesome. Okay. But that's reality, and the fortunate thing is a lot of times we don't have homework later in the evening, right? We spent that time and we, worked on it during that time. So, just keeping track of your hours. Some people will just take a regular calendar and just put a number 1, 2, 3, as they go through the year. And there's a lot of ways to set up your schedule. So don't get stuck on school at home. Like, you don't have to do school during school hours. I know there's people that work and go to school, and they'll do their school in the evening with the kids. We've been tempted. I'm thinking I'm going to flip our schedule kind of around, actually, and do tons of outdoor stuff in the mornings and then come in and do school in the evenings. Especially when it's nice out. It's hard to keep them inside. In winter, it's easy to do school inside, but we've kind of skipped winter this year. It's been lovely, although it's snowing outside here today. We're in Salt Lake City, and it's snowing. Okay, so you can keep track of your days that way. Now, there's a few different ways I know people do school. I like to do school year-round. I do light school year-round. I find that works better for our family, and we can take breaks whenever we want, and I don't stress out about it. I really don't stress out about this stuff at all, and maybe I need to a little more, maybe, but I want to pass on to you guys stressing about it way less, because a lot of people just get so stuck. That's not the word. That's not what I meant to say. They get hung up on these little details, and they just get totally freaked out. Don't freak out. Just grab a wall calendar, start writing down 1, 2, make a list of books that you read that month. It's really not a big deal. And I really feel like if somebody came after my kids in the long run, if they were questioning our schooling, we could just test them and they would see their learning. I'm not really concerned. Okay, but some people like to do 3 weeks out of the month on and 1 week off. Some people will do, they'll take the whole month of December off for Christmas, and just like from Thanksgiving on, they're just off until the new year. 175, thank you, Doylan. Hey, Levon. There's a lot of ways that you can break up your schedule. And some families really want a very scheduled schedule, and that's great. Good job. But some people, we're just working on it all year round. And if there's, if gymnastics happens on Tuesday and your friend says, let's go to the park and go to gymnastics, we're going to the park and gymnastics. So there's some options for you there with your schooling. Don't worry about the day of the time of the day or your weeks, whatever. It'll all work out. Oh, my notes just went away. Okay. Testing. So in some, hey Jane, thirsty. So now some states require testing and some states don't. And some states ask that you give, some states you just take the testing, but you don't even have to turn it in. That's pretty amazing to me. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. I personally feel like testing is a great skill to have, and I love to teach my kids test-taking skills because I love taking tests. But my husband has anxiety about it. Okay, let's see. Yes. Yeah, Doylan, I agree. But sometimes I like, she says that she likes to do school year round, and it's really easy in the winter to get a lot of school done. But also when it's nice out, sometimes you could say, hey, I want these couple of pages done, and then you can go play outside. And they want to play outside so bad that they'll get that stuff done real quick, and we just keep going on that progression, and so that we don't have that whole, I forgot everything I learned 3 months ago thing, But I really like to use some carrots like that. It helps. You can go outside and play as soon as this is done. Okay. Testing. Yes. I like to teach test-taking skills. I think it's great for life, right? I've taken job interviews where you had to take a test for it. So even if you're not thinking college is the thing for your kids, tests are probably going to be part of their life. Driver's ed, the driving tests. There's tests that they need to take. So I highly recommend taking that. It'll give you peace of mind. It is amazing. Like when they say, like in North Dakota, before there's an intervention by someone, you have to score overall 30% and below. Okay, that's extremely low. Like if that's where a child is at, there's probably some learning disabilities going on that you probably want to get addressed. I mean, there's some major stuff going on that you're going to want to look at. If your child is just scoring really low in one area, that doesn't get you flagged. Okay, that's really good feedback for you. Now, I would not spend my days teaching for a test. Okay, well, I know that we asked what are some things that are covered, and it was like a simple thing like map reading skills. I said that's one thing that a lot of people don't go over beforehand, but it's on the test. So it's like, oh, map reading skills? Well, we spent 2 days working on map reading skills, and then they tested fine, So don't stress out. It's really, the test, it's not a big deal. Just take it, especially once you take it, then you'll know. A lot of confidence really comes from doing it, and I'm going to try and give you as much as I can give you, and I'm going to give you some great resources, but it's going to take you time, right? We all have to go through that. We're hoping to shorten your period, though, to get confident. One thing I really wanted to cover in this very basic section is the term deschooling. So this is a term used a lot of times in the unschooling community, and sorry, my daughter's phone. Okay, so in the unschooling community, but it's something that I hear a lot when we're taking kids out of public school also. So when kids, and I shouldn't even say, when we take them out of school, any school, when there's been a regimented, you must learn this, that, memorize for the test kind of thing, a lot of those kids are burnt out, and they've lost a bit of their creativity and their personal drive. So I've heard different things. People a lot of times recommend 1 month off of anything for however many years they've been in school. That's one thing I've heard. I never had my kids in school. We've always homeschooled. I really feel like homeschooling is just a progression of life. Like, I mean, you read to your baby when they were in the belly. They came out. You started teaching them to count and teaching them their colors. Homeschooling is just doing that. It's just not sending them off to school, right? So I really believe that we've all been homeschooling them from birth. It's just not a term that we use. Like, I'm homeschooling my 1-year-old. We don't say that, but maybe we should. Maybe we should. I don't know. I do know that there was people when we were when my husband was in college, there was international students that were stay-at-home moms, and they were sending their kids to daycare because they thought that's what you did in America. They just had the sense, I don't know, from TV or something, that Americans, that's what you're supposed to do. It's best for your children to go put them in daycare. And that just broke my heart. So we were, the weird ones with our kids at home with us, even when they were babies. And so maybe this is a good thing we can keep sharing with people. But deschooling. So it helps when we give them that time to get bored, to figure out their interests. Now you're going to have to figure out your own rules about technology, because if we are deschooling them, but we're giving them their phone all day or computer games all day, I don't know if we'll get the results that we're really wanting. And I know, and that is a horrible topic, and I don't even want to talk about technology in this class, because I have no answers for you. I hate technology. No, I don't. I love technology, right? It's a love-hate thing. Yeah. But I would highly encourage you that deschooling time, that, you still had maybe only a couple hours in the evening or something, that technology could be used. But then you say, well, what about them using it for computer programming? Okay, you got me there. I don't know. It's a hard issue, and you're going to have to figure out for your kids what you want to do. If you have great tips, share them. I would love them. We personally, we don't if they're using it for a school project, we do it during school time, but it has to be like a math game, or it really is like learning typing. It's something like that. And then we allow them in the afternoon to have a bit of time. That's personally what we do. I still don't love it. My teenager has a phone. Whole other topic. Okay. Deschooling. So, but you're probably gonna have to deschool too. That's the hard thing, is a lot of us, unless you were homeschooled growing up and you've already experienced that, that can help you. I was homeschooled for a quarter of 8th grade. And basically what I did during that quarter was I went and worked on a potato farm. And then on my lunch breaks, I read my book when I wasn't talking to people. So never. I looked at my books a little bit. But I loved it. I'm a worker. I really enjoy working. It was good. I went to school. My mom wanted me to go back to school, and probably would have been better to homeschool. Maybe. I don't know. I went to school just to socialize. So, yeah. But deschooling, it's something I put in our notes that I'm going to give you guys the definition of it. And it's something I'd really look into a bit for you and your family if you're bringing somebody home from school. Okay, let's talk about socialization while we're on that. It's definitely one of the main questions. People ask a lot about socialization, and okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm reading Tennille's comments there when I wasn't talking to someone. Yeah, I like to talk. It's fun. Okay, so socialization, and I joke that we are over-socialized homeschoolers. You know, that was our struggle. And we had to really work on, because, you know, when my babies were preschoolers, we went to MOPS, and we went to Neil's house and visited, and we went and played with our friends. We went to the park, and we did these things a lot, you know, a lot. And so when we started looking at having our hours of school and spending more time reading and making things and creating stuff together, I had to really work on pulling those reins back and staying home more. And that was difficult for me. So, you know, we've had to work on that balance along our journey. And some people are the opposite. You know, they just love to stay home and they never leave. And they really need to work on getting out a little more so their kids can get out a little more, take some classes, have some friends. You know, we're all on different ends of the spectrum, right? But my friend Andrea Black, actually, she says when people say about socialization, she'll just say, "What do you mean? What do you mean by that?" Because most people don't know what they mean. It's just like it's this trigger answer, right? Everybody says it. Everybody says it. Like, you're homeschooling. Oh, what about socialization? It's like, you just talked to my kids. Like, did they look you in the eye? Did they talk to you? Like, I think they're fine. If people are like, well, I don't want them to be like, or they're going to be weird. Okay. I could talk about that issue for a really long time, but if we're looking at kids in school, if we're looking at public system, I mean, if you've hung around some teenagers, if you've hung around other kids, there's not a lot that I'm like, I want my kids to be like that, you know? I met a few families that have kids that I'm like, yeah, I want my kids to be like that, but it's a few, right? Like, this is a difficult path we're on, and with the technology, the movies these kids are watching, it blows me away what little kids are being influenced by, and they're talking to your kids. So I don't know. Yeah, I love that, Doylan, because there's no weird public schoolers, right? It's like, if people are worried, I think some people are really worried that your kids aren't going to like wear the right clothes. Like, that bothers them. Some people are really worried that, your kid is going to seem weird. Like, your kid might show up as a major leader in a group, you know, awkward. I don't know. Like, the way that we have school set up, when else in your life are you going to be around 20 other kids of your exact same age? When else in your life? This is not reality. Okay, public school. I need to stop saying public school. School. This is school system, private, public, charter, whatever. It's not reality, right? It is not equipping these kids for the real world. The real world is you work with people of all different ages, people, all sorts of different people, right? So figuring out how to get along with all these people and their cliques and that stuff, navigating all that stuff. I really think homeschooling, you have such an opportunity. Like, my 15-year-old daughter, you know, she's had some bullying. It just blows me away. In this tiny town we live in, they're like on Instagram, this girl posts, 4 ugliest people I know, and tags my daughter in this, okay? She doesn't go to school. I can't even imagine what it would be like if she went to school. And I'm telling you, and I told my daughter, they're just doing that because they're jealous, okay? My daughter is not ugly. But even if she was, rude. Like, who writes that? Who posts on the internet for like those people I know and then tags people on it? Okay, like jerks. And I'm glad that my daughter doesn't have to deal with that every single day. You know, who needs that? I don't know. There are amazing kids that rise up and do well in these systems, but they are very few and far between. So if I'm keep my kids from that, I'm all for it. So I don't know. It's a huge topic, socialization, but I just say don't worry about it. Really, I mean, if you want your kids, like when we think about what do we want them to be able to be kind, to have manners. You're going to teach them that. And when you're with other homeschoolers, you get together for homeschool play date, right? Well, poor kids. There's like 20, moms there with like 100 kids. Okay, if it's a homeschool get together, there's like 100 kids and 20 moms, but they're watching, right? And if somebody's being a jerk, moms are right there going, "Oh no, you say sorry to Billy. Let's figure this out." I see these kids. We used to live right across the street from the school. These kids were like knockout, drag out fights. I mean, it was crazyville over there, and they had one teacher out there to deal with that. And I'm sorry, her level of concern is not the same level as a mom's level of concern, right? Like, I love teachers, don't get me wrong, but the teachers do not love your kids like you love your kids, right? I mean, some of them are going to really appreciate your different kids and stuff, but your personal desires, sorry, I realized that just made me think back to our whole education thing. We talked earlier in this video about not feeling like you have the right level of education to teach your kids. And studies have shown that parents with only an 8th grade education, their kids actually test higher coming out of high school, being homeschooled, than I'm saying public schooled again, but that is what that one is about. Public schooled kids, they're testing higher. And it's because it's just that one. I mean, we have lower class size. If ever a teacher asks me about homeschooling, I usually always say, I can work at their pace and we have small class sizes. Like, they can't argue with that, right? They appreciate that. They understand why we would want that for our kids, because I don't want to ever want to make a teacher feel bad, like ever, right? I love what they're doing, and I think teaching is an amazing profession, and don't think I could do that with other people's kids. But I don't want them to be offended by our choice, right? So that's usually what I say to them. And so I'm just saying to you that no matter how much education you do or do not have, your love for your child and your dedication to their excellence is going to produce great results, right? And then we talked about the well-rounded education, and I think I only briefly touched on that also, but that's like, as long as if they're only reading 3 books and they never leave the house, I think they'll have a pretty well-rounded education. You're out in life more when you're homeschooling. These kids they're out and they're with you and they're seeing things, and you can pick books from all over the world, and you can do so much more, really. I mean, you have a huge blessing having this freedom. So just want to make sure that I said that. Okay, I think I'm going to end this video, and then I'll come back in just a moment to do our next group of information. So this one we just talked about like why you might concerns you have going into homeschooling, why you might think that you can't do it. We addressed those. Then we talked about joining HSLDA, finding your state's rules, doing your scheduling in different ways that you can schedule your time and get your hours in, how to log that. Some people like computer programs. I like just a calendar. I'm old school like that. There's another way that people do that I haven't researched a lot, but it's this spiral notebooking thing, and some people are loving the spiral notebook thing. You could look that up. And then we talked about testing. Don't be scared of it, and don't teach to it. I mean, you cover a couple of things, but don't stress out about it. The numbers I'm hearing for school and how many days in school they're working on testing and teaching to the test. These teachers they're sad. I mean, they don't even like what they're having to do. So, what about the thought that mom just likes to be in control of everything? She's type A, etc. Although I may have used that as an excuse to not homeschool, say, I'm a middle child. I don't really need to be so overbearing. Okay, I'm a little confused. Are we talking about, I think we're talking about teachers, talking to teachers, Tennille, and then that maybe they're thinking that you're a control freak. Is that what you're talking about? So I don't know. If someone said that to me, like she's a control freak, I'd be like, yep. I don't know. I am. And I'm going to own it, you know, and it's my job to really protect my children and to guide them. And honestly, well, I hate the schedule. Like, I mean, okay, if we're going to talk about why I homeschool, it's like for a million reasons. I decided to homeschool when I think I was pregnant with Sophia, my oldest. And I wanted a better education. Really, that was my goal in the beginning, was to give my kids an elite education. And my thoughts have drastically changed since that time. But I just wanted to be able to work at their pace, to just dive into their interests. I wanted to be able to just discuss, like we talked about, discussing things in detail and really understanding why of things. I have known so many people who's pulled their kids out of school recently because their kids got in trouble for asking too many questions in class. That breaks my heart. Like, that's what education is, right? Like, being curious about something, seeing it, and then asking questions like, why about that? I don't understand this. And I get it's difficult for a teacher when you've got a schedule and you've got to get to all these other things in the day, and they're trying to keep this one class on task and go through this plan that they've made, that the questions get overwhelming. But that breaks my heart. And those kids got pulled out, and I'm really thankful they did. And one got sent back in. I think the mom, you know, just didn't take homeschooling like a real job. Like, this is a part-time job for you. If you're going to homeschool, like, it's a big deal, you know, and we need to take it serious. It's not just going to happen on its own. And I think too many parents just want to put their kids in front of a computer and be like, okay, it's going to teach you now. No. How many of you want to just sit in front of a computer doing stuff you don't want to do, right? Like, if you're passionate about it, yeah, you'll sit there all night, right? But if it's something you don't want to do, if your husband says, honey, will you take care of the bills for me or the taxes, or will you go research how to fix the toilet, right? I'd be like, no, you do that. No, maybe some things I would say that. I mean, I do the taxes and whatnot. But if he's like, tell me, go research how to do the toilet and then come teach me how, I'd say, no, you need to do that. So this is really going off on a tangent, but did I answer your question? I don't know, Tennille. That you're being in control of everything. A lot of parents spend as much time doing homework with their kids as other parents spend homeschooling their kids during the day. Think about that for a minute. You know, where do you want to spend your time? And it's easier to answer the homework of stuff that you're teaching and that you already saw the teacher's guide to and whatnot, rather than teaching what the teacher's doing. And a lot of times I remember you didn't know exactly what they meant, or, you know, they asked you to do something, but you're not 100% clear on the instructions. And so that can be very difficult with doing homework. My mind. And also then I'd have to be asking all the time, like, what books are you reading? What are you learning about? What did you talk about? I can't imagine doing that download at the end of every day. Personally, I don't want to do that either. That seems like way too much time for me. I'll tell you my biggest pet peeve. This might step on some toes, but I'm telling you, I hate this excuse. And I'll say, Tennille, I think your daughter was one of the only kids. My other friend, Nisa, has a son that was like this. But people say, I want my kids need to go and be a light to the world. They need to go and be a light to the community. I need them to go out. Okay. I hear this a lot. So please don't take it personal. I mean, take what you need from this, right? And throw out the rest. But a lot of times I hear that from parents who are not doing that themselves. Okay. They're not having strangers over for dinner, right? They're not reaching out to the new people when they go to something. They're not doing that themselves, but then they're saying that their kids are called to do this. Okay. They want them to go out and be disciples. Are their kids ready? Are their kids strong in their own personal faith? Like, I know, I've heard of a few kids that are like, I want to go to high school and I just want to reach the kids for Christ. Like, there are kids like that. Not very many though. Okay. Not very many. And when they have that personal drive and that's what they want to do, that's great. But if you're saying, this is what I want for my kids, so I'm going to put them in there and hopefully that happens, pretty sure it's not going to happen. Pretty sure it's not going to happen. Pretty sure they're going to get rubbed off on. And also, I really feel strongly like when Jesus sent the disciples out, he sent them out. He sent grown men in pairs. He didn't send them out alone to the wolves. He did not do that. But that's what we're doing with our children. And we're saying, stay strong, go out there on your own and do this thing. Go listen to your teachers that are teaching opposite of what we believe. Go out there and reach these kids for the lost. That's a huge weight you're putting on your kids. And I don't think many kids are ready for that at this age. And I don't think they've been trained in that. If your kids are, if you have been discipling them always and you're modeling that, awesome. Awesome. But it's a hard one, guys. So I don't know. I think you were asking if, I don't know, Tennille, you didn't message me back here about what are people asking in school. So, okay, hopefully that answers some of those questions about just the very basics of getting what you need to do to get started and starting to just figure out your family's goals, because that's going to really help you as we keep continuing down this path. Let's see. Yep. Okay. So next we're going to talk about, on the next video, we're going to talk about addressing your family's fears, your husband's fears, and setting more goals for your family. So I'll see you in a moment. I'm going to get some water, check my notes, and I'll be right back.